Hey, mahal everyone. Welcome back again to the Broadway Saiyan YouTube channel. I am your host, 40, and we are back with another video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, again focusing on the global version of the game. In today's video, the topic for the day is Sephiroth, good or not good. So we know we're getting Sephiroth soon, and I did just make a video in regards to the character preparation for his upcoming event. I'll be leaving the link to that video on the video description as well as the pinned comments, so then that way you guys get to see a full detailed overview and description of the upcoming event as well as some gameplay. But this time we're going to talk about the character himself. Is this character going to be good or not good upon his release in the global version of the game? So, what does this character bring to global? So Sephiroth is a master of multi-hit single-target brave shaving and DPS. So, single-target enemies, beware, because Sephiroth is going to be dealing you a ton of damage. And they're all multi-hit, so he has a higher chance of scoring that brave break. His speed debuff affects all enemies in the form of a unique buff that only gets stronger with each stack. So what's cool about this is that the only way that this can be nullified is if the enemy dispels it. So the enemy can't push this off with debuffs. So he has a way to essentially permanently slow the enemy down as far as speed wise, you know, provided that you have this unique buff up. With his weapon passives, he also has steadily growing buffs to his max brave and attack, and this is referring to his 35 CP. So he has that option, making him even more of a DPS machine, single target DPS machine. And then finally, this is just for some flair, but he's husbando appeal to all fanboys and fangirls of Final Fantasy VII. So, Sephiroth's damage versus others. I chose 3 characters to compare him to. So, taking a look at his Fervent Blow, if you have the 15 CP, it deals a total of 270% damage modifiers. That's huge. And his Octaslash with the 35 CP does 210, which is pretty good as well. And remember, this is a Brave plus HP attack. And also, the Genova stacks now, because they grant attack and max Brave up with the 35 CP, the stacks are as following. So, with 1 stack, he gets a 10% attack increase, 2 stacks 20, 3 stacks 30, 4 stacks 40, and 5 stacks 50. For his max brave, it's going to be the following: 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, and 100%. So picture this: if you have him on the same team as Saz, and because Sephiroth has a unique buff, meaning that Saz's buffs won't override in any way, at maximum, Sephiroth is going to be having a 110% attack increase and a max brave increase of 160% with Saz's buffs, which is enormous. That's huge. So pretty cool. So comparing him to Setzer, and the reason why I chose Setzer is because Setzer has the closest DPS style attack as far as one of his abilities, which is Red Card. So Red Card with 35 CP is going to be dealing a total of 288% damage, and it delays the target 1 turn. Now, I know you're going to be like, wait, so Setzer DPS-wise, Brave Shaving-wise, he already beat Sephiroth, but the reason why Sephiroth, I say, wins, especially with his Octaslash, is because of those unique the unique buff of attack and max brave that Genova grants. So because of that, he's still going to be effectively a better brave shaver and single target damage dealer than Setzer is with his Red Card, because he's always constantly buffing himself whenever he gets that Genova stack. Comparing Sephiroth now to Squall, I feel like Squall is probably one of the closest units to him, only because Squall really is right now a single target DPS unit. So his Solid Barrel and Solid Barrel Plus are the following: 140% when Squall doesn't have that requirement for his initial Brave, and then 230%. So if we take a look at Fervent Blow already beats that, both of them, even the Solid Barrel Plus. And then Renzokuken and Renzokuken Plus, the Renzokuken does 100% with 35 CP, and then 200% if you have that initial Brave. Now Squall does grant himself a max Brave up of 20% and attack up 30% for 5 turns. So initially, when he uses this, he's going to be dealing a little bit more damage than Sephiroth because his buffs start off stronger, but then as Sephiroth builds up that stack for Genova, and because his is unique, he's eventually going to out DPS Squall as far as single target. And then finally, I'm going to compare him to Kuja, because Kuja is like DPS machine right now in global. So Ring Holy and Ring Holy Plus. So if it's not with the 4 stacks of Soul Divider, it's gonna be dealing a total of 180%. Now, if it is with the 4 stacks of Soul Divider with the Plus version, it's gonna be 360%. So it does beat out Fervent Blow, but remember, if Kuja's DPS does diminish when there's more than one enemy. Now, obviously, if this is going to be single target and Kuja has his 4 stacks of Soul Divider, then Ring Holy definitely beats Fervent Blow. But remember, Kuja still needs 2 turns right now in global to build that up, where Sephiroth can just constantly hit with 270%. 270%. So I'm gonna say the edge for single target still goes to Fervent Blow just for consistency. And then comparing it to Ultima 9 and Ultima 9 Plus, so Ultima 9 deals 180% total, and then if you have the 4 stacks of Soul Divider, it's going to be at 360%. Yet again, though, you got to remember this is random brave damage. So if this is again, Kuja's damage does diminish when he's dealing against more than one enemy. But if we're talking about single target, Kuja does still win hands down. However, and he does have that 20% max brave up and 20% attack up for 5 turns. But remember, he still needs that setup. And yes, Sephiroth also needs that setup too. But I feel like it's still a little bit more consistent because Kuja essentially needs to use up 2 turns, where Sephiroth can just continuously use Octa Slash, and if you score that break, you even get that additional stack of the Genova unique buff. So Sephiroth's pros and cons. So let's take a look at his pros. He is amazing single target brave shaving capabilities. He is, I feel like he's unmatched right now. If you guys, you know, can give me an argument, you know, constructive argument as to why you feel like somebody can match him currently in global, let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to have a discussion on that. But I feel like personally, upon his release, he won't really have competition as far as single target DPS wise. He synergizes well with both buffers and debuffers, and he could definitely fit into both teams. So as you can see, his self buffs won't conflict with other buffers. So he works well with Aiko, he works well with Saz, he works well with Yuna, he works well with Penelo. So buffers, you guys can be friends with Sephiroth, so you can stick him with buffers, and then debuffers obviously are going to be increasing the amount of damage he deals even more. And he's highly likely to score a Brave Break with those passes because of that high damage modifier and those multi-hits. And again, another pro is he's husbando material for all you Sephiroth fans. So some cons. Sephiroth, he at least needs to have his 35 CP, because that max brave and attack buff from the Genova, he absolutely really needs that to continuously deal that massive amount of single target DPS. He does take a bit to set up with his Genova stacks, just like Kuja. So he does need it. So you do need to continuously use Octa Slash. Now remember, if you have his 35 CP, if you score a break, he gains an additional stack, so he can potentially build that stack faster, but he does need a little bit of setup. He lacks another debuff to further increase his DPS on his own. So I know he debuffs speed, but I feel like they could have at least given him some, like maybe a defense down on one of his abilities, maybe like with Fervent Blow. But yeah, he's kind of lacking in the debuff department. And then him being in the really slow speed tier does hurt him a bit, because if you're fighting up against an enemy that is fast, and most bosses actually are somewhat fast, they're going to be taking their turn before Sephiroth, and if they're targeting him, he has a chance of getting broken, meaning you won't really get to capitalize right away on what he can really do, just because he's really super slow. So those are going to be his pros and cons. Final thoughts and tips. So again, Sephiroth benefits most by stacking as much attack on him to complement his Genova stacks, provided you have that 35 CP. A team consisting of himself, a buffer, and debuffer is definitely a solid choice. An example I'm giving right here is Sephiroth, Saz, and Tidus. And then later on, he is going to be getting a level 60 Awakening and EX weapon. He actually just got it not too long ago in JP. So it's going to be a while for us in Global, unless they decide to change things up. But this does make him a great future investment, as right now, and even in JP, he's currently one of the better DPS units. So that is going to be my good or not good evaluation on Sephiroth. So is he good or not good? Upon his release, and as long as we don't get level 60 when he gets released, I don't think they're going to pull that surprise on us for Global. He's actually going to be pretty good. Again, solid, very, very high single target DPS. He is the master at it. He has that speed debuff that is imbued with his Genova unique buff, and he also is able to stack up his Genova buff. So I feel like he's going to be a very good character. When level 60 comes out, yeah, he's going to start to decline. It's just the way that the game is. But don't underestimate him. And it's a good thing that we're actually getting his release early, because he is going to be given more chance to shine before level 60 comes out. Alright guys, that is going to be my video on Sephiroth, good or not good. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, don't forget to consider hitting that subscribe button, giving this video a like, commenting down below in the comments about what do you think about this video, and as well as turning on that notification bell. That way you guys are notified when I post a new video. Once again, this is 40 the Broadway Saiyan. Stay tuned for the next video, and mahal everyone.